Thank you. Thank you. That means a lot. My heart is racing out of my chest right now, and I'm feeling a plethora of emotions. So I'm going to try to get through this as professionally as I can.
Well, let's start with the funeral. So you chose not to go, and I know you really haven't had contact with your dad in the last 2 years of his life. So let's start off with why you chose not to go.
I think to get to the funeral, you have to start at the beginning. I'm embarrassed that it's even come to this. I have a life. I have 2 kids. I have a job. I have a business. I have been trying to live quietly and peacefully. And the only reason my face is on TV right now is because I have had to constantly battle false claims. The first one being Brooke didn't come to her dad's wedding. Why? Oh, well, Brooke is estranged from her dad. Why? And it's like, I always say 2 things can be true, right? I can love my dad, which is the absolute God's honest truth. I love my father. I love that picture of us. I love my dad. But my dad and I have been through a lot of stuff over the years. If you want to give it a quick Google, anybody can find out the hurt that has happened to me throughout the years. And I've forgiven, and I've always put my dad first. That's my daddy. People know, as a woman, a father-daughter bond is so strong, even more so than a mother-daughter bond, And I love my mom, but my dad and I were very close, very, very close. And I've been through a lot of things with him. Surgeries, lots and lots of surgeries, a lot more surgeries than what's happened in the last 2 years. We've been through a lot. I've forgiven a lot. I've been by his side through everything. Even if I haven't gotten the whole truth, even if I have been a little bit misled, I have still had his back.
So I know this happened a while ago, but when the sex tape came out, and when you initially had supported him and apparently didn't necessarily know everything that was in it, particularly the references to boyfriends of yours using racial epithets. How big a role did that play in this estrangement?
Well, I still get nasty comments that I have to hide, regarding I'm sure Hulk's glad she's not dating a black guy now. I'm still getting it, and through that whole sex tape drama, everybody focused on Hulk said the N-word and this whole thing, and we're fighting for this amendment and privacy and big hero movement, but I never got a direct apology for that. That was extremely embarrassing for me. The money that he was pumping into my career, there's a lot more behind that that a lot of people don't know. What is really confusing me right now, and I think the core of what we're here to talk about, is whoever is spinning this negative narrative about me, trying to get ahead or discredit me, or whatever they're trying to do. What I've been hearing it's so false, it's laughable, and it's making me mad, and it only tells me that their golden goose is gone. I relied on my father for nothing financially. I have my own job. My husband has a job. We do not have any money coming in from my father since I was 18 years old. And everybody else relied on him for a paycheck. And now that golden goose is gone. So I don't know if I'm their emotional, guilty punching bag, or if they are afraid of what I know. Because I know a lot that I don't talk about. I know a lot. And, it's pathetic. And it's disgusting, to be honest. And I don't really know who's spinning these things, but, one of the things was Hulk sent gifts that Brooke returned. Let me tell you something, brother. No pun intended. My dad was not one to put things in a box and tape it up and take it to UPS. My dad sent flowers. That was his thing. Nick and Tana sent us beautiful little baby gifts when our kids were born. They had our address. No gifts came here. No flowers came here, and you can't return flowers, okay? So that's number one. Number two, this begging for forgiveness. Me and my dad have had multiple conversations where he said sorry, and we never ever specifically, he never specifically said for what. I really actually had hoped that we could have actually delved a little deeper on that, like sorry for what, Dad? Like because a lot of these things really hurt me, and I do want to talk about them. But in my heart, I didn't want to embarrass him further. I didn't want to make him suffer more. So I kind of just swallowed it and was like, you know what? That's my dad, whatever, just keep it moving. And I looked back through my dad's text messages today before this interview. I looked back through our text messages, all kind. Always I love yous, always here's some funny pictures from the past, Dad, I love you. Me and my dad were always respectful to each other, always kind and loving to each other. Where the real cincher came in were phone calls that we had. And me not attending the wedding with Sky had nothing to do with Sky, and had nothing to do with me being worried about her being affiliated with Scientology. That is a fear. I don't know where she stands in that. That's a fear of mine, obviously, if she is involved. But that's not. I mean, she said she left, so I'm like, hey, Dad, if you believe her, like that's cool. Like she's super nice. Her kids are darling and sweet. I got along with her little girl Layton. Like she's just the sweetest little doll baby you can't even imagine. Really good children, which I think is a reflection on her as a mother. But the Scientology thing was a little bit like, okay, that's scary. My dad said he was never going to get married. When Steve asked for my hand in marriage, my dad's words were, just as long as you guys are good together or good to each other, but I'll never do it again. So his whole thing was, I'm not going to get married. And we had conversations, private conversations that I put on speakerphone for my husband to hear. Because I said, I need you to hear this because I have a feeling one day I'm going to be painted as crazy. And this is going to come up out of the woodwork. And so I just had a women's intuition. And we had talked multiple times. One time Steve was in the car, me and Steve and my dad were in the car. And he was saying a few unsavory things about Sky. And me and Steve were kind of like, Dad, that's kind of, not nice. Like
when he was married to her?
No, when they were dating. And he called me and he would talk about arguments they had and had talked. And I'm sorry, Sky, if you're watching this, my dad confided in some issues that you guys were having. And he asked me, I think they had broken up once before and then they got back together. And he was kind of telling me there was a worry in his voice. And he was like, I just don't know. Like, I'm not sure about this. And I said, well, why don't you just end it? I said, and this is me just being candid. I said, Dad, you got more money than God. You can date whoever you want. Why don't you just spend your money while you're alive? He was like, oh, I got your kids set up. I'm like, spend your money while you're alive. I got a job. I'm good. We all know money does not buy happiness. We had a ton of it and our family was a disaster. I said, spend your money while you're alive. No big deal. But I said, just, don't get married. You can date whoever you want. You can do whatever you want. Just enjoy your life. Me and Steve are moving back. This is the time in life. I have a text message where I said, Dad, you've made certain choices, right? Our family has imploded however many times. I said, now is the chance to start anew. You're getting older. You don't have nothing to prove to anybody. Let's just ride off into the sunset. Let's go on the boat. Let's whatever. Like me and Jennifer, his second wife, had gotten him through a ton of surgeries and really, truly had him in a good spot. And, he was one to kind of push the limits a little bit. One of the last surgeries resulted in him pushing too hard in the gym, and he tore his shoulder muscle, and then that turned into MRSA, and then it turned into something else, and we got him through that. And I was like, Dad, we're finally everything's fine, And if you're having issues with this particular lady, I said, keep it light, end it, whatever. I said, blame it on me. When my dad was going to marry Jennifer, he told her, if my kids don't like you, I can't marry you. I said, use the same excuse. Say I don't like her. That's not the truth. I mean, she was sweet to me, but, I was like, Dad, I have your back. Just say, my kids don't want me to get married or, whatever. I got, it seems like a very probable, reason to not get married. And he said she was kind of like pushing the marriage thing hard, which any woman would. but he was just feeling uneasy. And he said something to me that really took me aback. And he said, if I broke up with her, it'd be bad. And I said, what do you mean by that? It would be bad. And he goes, I don't want to get into it, you know? So then we exchanged a couple text messages. Hey, Daddy, good morning, Daddy. How are you? I love you. You know, here's some funny pictures from the past. Oh, you're really taking me down memory lane, whatever. I've got it all on my phone. And then I got another call from him, and I was starting to, and we had gone back and forth a little bit on text that was kind of, like I said, respectful disagreements, where I was like, you know, Dad, this is a chance to make a new, and he kind of shot back at me like, well, I haven't approved of who you've dated. And it was like tit for tat. And I was like, okay, like, this is childish. Like, and it was making me cry. It was like, there were hurtful things that he kind of said. And there were a couple things that, you know, I was working on a house for him, and one of the contractors witnessed, an interaction between me and my dad, and he texted me, the contractor texted me and said, are you okay, kid? That hurt me watching what I saw. So my dad had become a little bit calloused in his old age, and that's okay. You know,
well, but that's kind of what I want to ask you as I hear you. There were a lot of issues between you and your dad, and it sounds very complicated. And I'm glad you were able to talk about all of this. Does it bother you that you're never going to get closure with him by not seeing him or interacting with him, or him interacting with you? That it sounds like, you know, he would apologize but not give reasons for what he was apologizing for. And does this haunt you, or do you say, you know, it's just the way it was, and kind of put it to rest?
No, actually, because my dad, I know for a fact, my dad knows how much I love him. My dad knows I would run through a burning building for him. I would call him every day, every other day. We talk, we leave voicemails. You know, I was my dad's running mate. When, you know, he'd pick me up from school, we'd go to sushi alone together. You know, I mean, my dad was confiding in me before he married Sky. Like, he wasn't confiding in anybody else. He was confiding in me. Me and him were like best friends. And my dad knew. Even with, you know, and this is the thing, is the estrangement is a boundary, right? So I didn't like certain people that he was around. It wasn't Sky. It was a number of people that I did not trust, that I had seen behavior in. And I said, Dad, flashing yellow signs like, hey, this is messed up. Like, are you going to do anything about it? And my dad was never alone. He was always with someone. And most of those people I did not like, and I did not get good energy from, and I didn't want to be around. And he kind of gave me the sentiment of like, well, I guess you have to live your life and I have to live mine. And that was kind of how it was left. And it was almost like, you know, I love you, you love me. We have different beliefs and different, you know, opinions on things, but like, we're good. Me and my dad are good. Like, we're good.
Well, okay,
I love
okay.
my dad, he loves me.
If you're good and you love each other, which I believe, you made a decision that you want no part of his will. You do not want to be a beneficiary. You mentioned a few minutes ago that he has more money than God. Given the fact that he did love you, and I don't know what his will says, but if he decided he wanted you to share in what he had, why reject that?
For a number of reasons. You know, I think it wasn't obviously not a test. But my dad should have known that when the truth is, my dad might not even know that I asked to be off the will, because I texted his money manager, and his money manager and his people may have taken me off the will without him even knowing. Who even knows? This is the issue, you know, that I had, was never knowing the truth because of the people that were around him. So who knows? Maybe he did know. Let's just say he knew, and he took me off the will, whatever. My reasons, number one, that goes to show you I'm not in it for the money. I don't care. Like, I'm more concerned about you. The biggest reason, though, why I asked to be off of the will was because I know my family, and I know if Sky, who, from what I know, allegedly is still in good standings with Scientology, after my dad passes, and she still has her Scientologist family and Scientology backing. I don't want to fight that. And not that I would have to fight that. I don't even think Sky would be a problem with me. But
if it's not a problem, why not roll with it if he leaves you in the will? If he did leave you in the will, and they end up calling you and saying, Brooke, you just inherited X, whatever that money is, would you accept it?
Right now, if somebody said that,
yeah,
I would be shocked. I would be grateful. I'd say, oh my gosh, I can't believe my dad would do that, but he didn't. So, I mean, these are hypothetical things.
Do you know what the will? Because I don't know what the will says. Do you?
No, I don't. But I know.
So what if he did leave you something, because there clearly was love between the two of you? So what if he did?
I'll tell you this: I wouldn't know, because the only word that I have to go on is his people. So I hired a power of attorney to call and find out what was going on, because there was a small trust I was on that we're going to put towards our kids' college funds. And I had my power of attorney look into that. And then he had to talk to Terry McCoy, my dad's money manager, and then the estate planner or whatever it is. And they said, no, Brooke is 100% completely off the will. So that's all I know. That's the words I have to go off of. I don't know I have no plans of digging deeper, because I didn't care about the money. That's the truth. If there is something there, maybe my brother would have the heart to tell me, or I don't really know. But the point of taking myself off the will, getting back to that, was, if Scientology were a thing, which I don't think Sky would present a problem if she were like a full-blown Scientologist. But I just know how my family is, and I've seen how certain members of my family go after money. And I see how they fight over money and how they turn on each other over money. And I said, if and when my dad dies, this is going to be, pardon my French, a show. And I want no part of it, because I have already had to witness my dad go through 15 years of legal battles, depositions. Our whole life has been lawsuits. All I want to do is be at the beach with my babies and my husband and do my own thing. Leave me alone. Like, that's all I want.
Are you at peace?
I'm at peace. The only thing that makes me sad is, now I'm getting crapped on for not going to funerals and services and stuff like that, when my dad told me specifically multiple times, just burn me up and put me in the back of the ocean behind my house. That's where my dad is. I want to be in the Gulf. I want to be with my dad. I don't want he didn't like the morbidity of funerals. He hated it. And quite honestly, if he knew he were being carted around for 2 weeks for show, with people that didn't really know him, celebrities and stuff, that I'm like, how well did you really know them? Is this for my dad, or is this for everybody else? So, hate to be a biatch about it, but, my dad wanted to be cremated and put in the ocean. And the closest way I could get to him was to put my feet in the ocean with my children. And I'm standing by that. And that is my God's honest truth.
Brooke, at peace or not, it's got to be hard. And I'm sorry again. And I really, really appreciate you giving me the time. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. And I just want to say that whatever representative from that camp continues to spew these lies, if they want to keep going, grab your best hold, grab your best lawyers, because I'm ready to go. Because I'm done with it. I'm done. This is ridiculous. I know too much. I've been through too much. I'm not to be played with. I'm done. So it better stop. I want to get back to my life. I want to get back to my children, who for this last 2 weeks has not been able to have the full attention of their mom and dad. We don't have babysitters and nannies and people parading around here. I need to spend time with my kids. I am a nervous wreck. I haven't eaten. I haven't slept. This is ridiculous that this has gone to this point of this war of words. And that's why I'm here with you, Harvey, to put it to rest. My dad has finally been put to rest. Leave him alone. Leave me alone. And let the poor man go to heaven and just end it. Stop coming after me. I'm not the one you want to come after.